In 2025, a team of scientists lowered an underwater robot 2,000 feet into the South Atlantic Ocean, near the South Sandwich Islands, one of the most remote chains of volcanic islands on Earth. They were looking for squid. Specifically, they were looking for the colossal squid, a species that has been known to science for over a century, but has never been observed alive in its natural environment, not once, in 100 years. We have dissected their bodies. We have pulled them from the stomachs of sperm whales. We have measured their beaks and estimated that full-grown adults can reach 23 feet in length, with eyes the size of dinner plates. But no human being had ever seen one alive in the deep ocean, until that moment. The robot's camera captured a juvenile, roughly 1 foot long, hovering in the blackness at 600 meters. It was the first confirmed recording of a living colossal squid in its habitat. A creature the length of a school bus had been hiding from every camera, every submersible, every research expedition for 100 years. And the first one we finally found was a baby. That single discovery would have been enough to define a year of ocean science. But 2025 was not a normal year. In the 12 months that followed, scientists documented over 800 species that had never been recorded before. They found an entire ecosystem running on methane instead of sunlight, 30,000 feet below the surface, in one of the deepest trenches on Earth. They discovered life thriving beneath a collapsed Antarctic ice shelf that had been sealed from the outside world for decades, possibly centuries. They retrieved underwater monitoring devices from the deep reefs of Guam that had been collecting specimens for 8 years and found 2,000 organisms, including at least 20 species, completely new to science. And they sent a mining machine to the bottom of the Pacific and discovered that even the barren, lightless mud 4,000 meters down was teeming with nearly 800 species, many of them unknown, living in sediment that grows at a rate of 1,000th of a millimeter per year. In a single year, we discovered more about the ocean than in the entire previous decade. We have no idea what is down there. Welcome to Discovery Vault. Here is the number that defines this story. 5%. That is the estimated proportion of the ocean floor that has been explored by human beings. 5%. The ocean covers 71% of the Earth's surface. It contains 97% of all the water on the planet. Its average depth is over 12,000 feet. Its deepest point, the Challenger Deep in the Mariana Trench, reaches nearly 36,200 feet. More people have walked on the surface of the moon than have been to the bottom of that trench, and we have explored, mapped, and studied roughly 5% of it. The other 95% is darkness. Let's start with what was found beneath the Antarctic ice. In early 2025, the Schmidt Ocean Institute conducted an expedition to a section of the Antarctic sea floor that had recently been exposed by the collapse of the George VI ice shelf. This ice shelf had covered the ocean floor for an unknown period, potentially decades, potentially centuries. When it broke apart, it revealed a section of seabed that had been sealed from sunlight, surface water, and contact with the open ocean for as long as the ice had been in place. What the scientists expected to find was a barren wasteland. No light reaches the sea floor beneath an ice shelf. No photosynthesis occurs. The temperature is near freezing. The pressure is crushing. There should have been nothing down there. What they actually found was a vibrant, alien-like ecosystem. Anemones, sea spiders, icefish, octopuses, organisms that had been living, reproducing, and building communities in total darkness, sealed beneath a layer of ice with no connection to the surface for longer than anyone had predicted was possible. Several of the species found were new to science, and the size of some of the organisms, particularly the sponges, suggested they had been growing for decades or even hundreds of years. Sponges grow slowly, sometimes less than 2 centimeters per year. The specimens found beneath the collapsed ice shelf were large enough to indicate they had been there for a very long time. This means the ecosystem was not new. It had not colonized the area after the ice broke. It had been there the entire time, living, growing, hidden. Now let us go deeper. In August of 2025, geochemist Mengran Du was piloting a submersible in the trenches between Russia and Alaska, at depths between 19,000 and 30,000 feet below the surface. This is the Hadal zone, the deepest layer of the ocean, where sunlight has never reached and the pressure would crush a human body instantly. Du had 30 minutes left in her dive when she decided to explore one final stretch of trench floor. She began noticing creatures, clams, tube worms, organisms that had no business being at that depth, in that environment, in those conditions. What Du had found was a 1,500-mile-long stretch of ecosystem running entirely on chemosynthesis. The organisms were not using sunlight. They were not relying on food drifting down from the surface. They were converting methane in the sediment into energy. The microbes in the sediment were turning organic matter into carbon dioxide and then into methane, and the bacteria living inside the clams and tube worms were using that methane as fuel. An entire food chain, operating independently of the sun at the deepest point accessible to life on Earth. When Du's team analyzed sediment samples, they found methane concentrations far higher than anything previously recorded in Hadal trench environments. The process they discovered, microbes converting carbon dioxide into methane at those depths, was something scientists did not know was possible. It was not just a new ecosystem, it was a new biological process. The discovery was published in Nature. Meanwhile, on the other side of the Pacific, something equally extraordinary was happening off the coast of Guam. Scientists from the California Academy of Sciences had placed 13 underwater monitoring structures on deep coral reefs in Guam back in 2018. These devices, called autonomous reef monitoring structures, are essentially underwater hotels. They are stacks of plates that provide surfaces for marine organisms to colonize over time. The scientists left them there for 8 years. In November of 2025, they went back to collect them. When they brought the structures to the surface, they were blanketed with life, bright orange sponges, twisted tube worms, crimson-colored creatures that had never been catalogued. Miniature pink fish, smaller than thumbtacks, swam frantically, seeing sunlight for the first time in their lives. A hermit crab was found living inside a clamshell instead of a snail shell, a behavior that had never been documented for any hermit crab species. A transparent goby fish drifted past the cameras with its entire skeleton visible through paper-thin skin. In 2 weeks of processing, the team collected 2,000 specimens. They identified 100 species never before recorded in the region. At least 20 appear to be entirely new to science. And the lead researcher said that once genetic analysis is complete, that number will increase tenfold. The monitoring structures also carried temperature sensors. The data from those sensors revealed something that no one had measured before. The ocean is warming at depths that were previously assumed to be stable. Even the twilight zone, the layer between 200 and 1,000 meters where sunlight barely penetrates, is heating up. This is the zone where many deep-sea species live, reproduce, and form the foundation of food webs that connect the deep ocean to the surface. If that zone is warming, the implications cascade upward through the entire marine ecosystem. And then there was the mining. In the Clarion-Clipperton Zone, a vast region of the Pacific Ocean floor between Mexico and Hawaii, an international team of marine biologists spent 5 years and 160 days at sea cataloging life on the deep seabed. The seafloor there sits 4,000 meters below the surface. It is covered in polymetallic nodules, potato-sized lumps of manganese, nickel, cobalt, and rare earth metals that are critical for batteries, electronics, and green energy technology. Multiple countries want to mine them. The International Seabed Authority is developing regulations. The question was, what would be destroyed in the process? The answer was worse than expected. The researchers documented 788 species living on and in the sediment at 4,000 meters, many of them previously unknown. They found a new species of solitary coral growing directly on the metal nodules. The sediment at that depth grows at 1,000th of a millimeter per year, meaning any disturbance would take thousands of years to recover. When they tested a mining machine on a small area, animal abundance dropped 37% and species diversity dropped 32% in the tracks of the machine. Some of those species may never recover, some of them may not exist anywhere else on Earth, and we are considering scraping them off the ocean floor for battery components. Here is what 2025 told us about the ocean. There is life beneath the ice where we expected none. There is an ecosystem at 30,000 feet that does not depend on the sun. There are species colonizing structures we left in the water for 8 years that have never been seen before. There are 800 species living in barren mud that we are planning to mine. There are creatures at every depth, in every condition, in every environment we have looked. And every time we send a camera or a robot or a diver into a part of the ocean that has never been examined, we find something new. Over 800 new species were described in 2025 alone. A global initiative called the Ocean Census, launched by the Nippon Foundation and coordinated across dozens of countries, has increased the annual speed of species discovery by 38% and has already identified over 866 species across its expeditions. At the current rate of discovery, scientists estimate there may be 2 million marine species on Earth. We have formally identified a fraction of them. The ocean is not empty, it is not barren, it is not a void between continents. It is the largest habitat on the planet, home to more species than all the forests and grasslands and deserts combined, and we have barely begun to catalogue what lives there. Every expedition returns with organisms that have no name. Every deep sea dive encounters creatures that challenge our understanding of what life can endure. And every year, the list of what we do not know gets longer, not shorter, because the more we look, the more we realize how much we have been missing. We mapped the surface of Mars in higher resolution than we have mapped the floor of our own ocean. We have better maps of the Moon than we do of the seabed beneath the Atlantic. And in 2025, in a single year, the ocean reminded us that it is still the largest unexplored frontier on this planet, holding secrets that we are only just beginning to find. 5% explored, 95% unknown, and every time we look into the darkness, something looks back. This has been Discovery Vault. If this changed how you think about the planet you live on, subscribe and turn on notifications, because what they find in 2026 will be even stranger. It always is.